Yeah, we live. I really gotta get better at this going live thing. Anyhow, the music coming through. Let me start this timer. 10 minutes before we get the action going. And what are you gonna talk to you about today? This 10 minutes. Well, it's gonna be a pet peeve of mine. So I can really mention it, right? Because I think there's a they bring on the music a little bit while they chat. I think there's a lot of bad advice going on out there, and not just bad advice when it comes to YouTube, bad advice when it comes to life altogether. And one of the main reasons that I started this YouTube channel is that I realize that there are a lot of people out there who have a less than stellar message, right? And they build a platform and they share this message, and it's not a healthy message, it's not a good message. And I thought to myself, why not start sharing healthy messages with people? So we here, right? We here, we live, we unemployed, but that's okay. If you want to support the channel, hit subscribe, hit like so that the video goes out. If I hit 1,000 subscribers here as quickly as possible, I can monetize the channel. I can start doing things like super chats, etc., and start bringing in some cash while I look for another job. But back to the point at hand, bad advice. I wouldn't really call it bad advice because people can say, well, there's your truth and there's my truth. But in my, as far as I go, there's only one truth, right? But people make it successfully sharing bad advice. And on the topic of bad advice, I heard someone said recently, because I follow a lot of up and coming YouTubers because I want to see how they're growing. I want to see if there's anything that I can learn from them, because you can always learn something from somebody regardless of whether or not they're doing something right. They don't always have to be doing something right for you to learn. And I heard this guy said that, you know, reading and learning things from books isn't no use. Well, it may not be any use to him. He said he prefers to experience things and to do things on his own. That's how best he does learn. Now, that might be working for him, but that's, as far as I'm concerned, bad advice. Because you have to read to succeed. And I think if I were to diagnose the issue that he's having, is that he's reading and not putting what he's read into practice, or not putting what he's learned into practice. And that's the whole power of reading and learning new things and developing a growth mindset. And that's why all about continual learning and growth mindset, because there's always something to learn and there's always room to grow. You can always get stronger. The brain is a muscle, so you have to exercise the brain. Yes, life experiences is good and it teaches you a lot of things, but when you really look at the grand scheme of what we call life, the reality situation is that our individual bubble and our individual reach on any given day is limited, which means we cannot experience everything that we would need to experience in order to grow, because our life happens in a real small set space. Which is why now reading literature and reading things and books from other people strengthens you as an individual and allows you to take what other people have experienced and learned and put that information into practice, right? And if I were to look at my success, every time that I move to another level, every time that I level up, it always comes after learning a new skill or committing to learning to be better at something. right? Before I break into a 6-figure salary, I had to learn the whole ITIL framework. I didn't have to learn the whole thing, but I did it, right? And in learning that, I was able to set myself up to break into a 6-figure salary. And I was trying to break into a 6-figure salary for like 5-6 years, banging my head on the wall, thinking that all I need to do is get more experience at work. All I need to do is do more at work to break through that barrier. But that was only half true. Those experiences and stuff that I gained only took me to a particular point. I didn't have to read and learn new things to break through that level. And then I could combine my life experiences with the new things that I've learned to position myself to be able to break through to 6 figures. Right? And well, that's just one example. So we got 4 minutes before we go lock in. Today I am going to be working on the intro for my new video, to give a sneak peek into the new video that's coming up. Big shout out to my man Adam. Adam gave me a great idea. Comment section on point. So my next video is going to really be about breaking open YouTube analytics from a data analyst perspective. For those of you who don't know, my last job that I just got laid off from, I was in data governance, which means I was doing data and analytics for 2 years. And data analytics is all about telling the appropriate story based on the evidence, and the evidence being the data that you have. So my next video is going to be all about getting YouTube data, understanding YouTube Studio, the data that comes in, the data to ignore, and the data that you can use to make good decisions, smart decisions to grow your channel and to get more views. And one of the beautiful things I like about my channel is that you can apply this thing to your life as well. You could conduct experiments, collect data, and use that data to tell a story, and use that data to make informed choices in your life. So we got 3 minutes before I start digging into my intro. I already got my thesis and outline and all that stuff locked in. I've been working on it for the last couple days. So before we do that, because it was on the topic of reading, let me give you guys some literature that I have used that really benefited me in life. And one of the first books that I'm going to talk about is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And the title of the book says it all, right? People may look at it and think of it as a negative and say, well, why do you want to win friends and influence people? The reality situation is that success is not something that happens in a bubble. Your success happens by collaborating with hundreds, thousands, and in some people's cases, millions of people. Collaboration and cooperation is the ultimate path to success. That's how we get large corporations. That's how we get YouTube channels with millions and millions of subscribers. That's how we get social media feeds that are active and that pays us to do things. That's how we get jobs. That's how we negotiate higher salaries. That's how we negotiate better working conditions. You have to be able to win friends and influence people in life. And Dale Carnegie's book, while it may sound, for some it might sound like something to be manipulative, but it really isn't. It really positions you to communicate from the perspective of the person that you're speaking to. Right? That's a really, really good way to sum it up. And there's nothing manipulative about that. And yes, there are some people that could be natural and talented communicators and may not need a book like this. But when I look at my life, I read this book in my early 20s. When it was me moving from a situation where I believed that I know it all and that I was the hottest thing, to moving into being older and more mature. And I found that this book has really, really helped me to learn to negotiate, to, like I said, communicate from the perspective of the person that you're communicating to. Even a simple situation, a simple example that you found in the book, and I can show you that I apply it to my real life. A man in the book was getting a rent increase, and he could not afford to get a rent increase. He loved where he lived and he wanted to be able to stay, And instead of saying, well, hey, I can't afford to pay this rent, and me, this is why I can't afford to pay the rent, this is why this, and this is why the third, he flipped that script using the tools in the book to position it from the perspective of the landlord and communicate using the landlord's language and let the landlord know, well, I know that raising the rent is something that needs to happen. You may have your own, you know, needs and reasons for raising the rent. However, if you raise the rent above this amount, X amount, I will no longer be able to stay here. You know, candidly, I love the place. I love what you've done with it. And I really want to be able to stay, but this is how much I can afford. And in that simple perspective shift and positioning it from what the value would be to the landlord of keeping him, which is he's a good renter, he pays on time. If he leaves, the landlord got to get the place ready to, you know, put a new tenant in it, which is going to come at a cost. And yes, raising the prices might be in the benefit of the landlord, but also losing a really good tenant is also not in the benefit of the landlord. So just being able to reframe how you think about things and how you position the outcome, or how you position your outcome in terms of the benefit and the value it brings to the person that you're communicating with, changes the game. And I apply that same structure and that same approach for my last rent increase with my landlord. And guess what? For the last 2 years, it didn't have a rent increase. Although this year he carried it up a little bit, but he only bumping it up by 5%. And that's reasonable, right? And I would say that, yeah, I'm going to pay that. I ain't going to complain about it. I ain't going to ask for a break this time, because the last time that I asked for a break, he gave me a break. So therefore now, from his perspective, bro running the business, bro gonna make money. Sure, 5% increase this year. I ain't employed. I can figure it out. Like, comment, and subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers. That way I can monetize. That way I can pay my bills. That being said, let me lock in at 50 minutes here. Next 10-minute break, I can give you another book, and then we can go from there. If you want any book recommendations, hit me up. I have plenty book recommendations. I rock out with Audible, which means that any free time that I have, I listening to a new audiobook. Right now, I'm listening to Brendan Kane talking about viral content and how to make viral content strategies. Anyways, let me lock in the 50 minutes and let me go. All right. Locked in. Locked in. Take a little break, stretch your legs, enjoy the vibes. There we go. Yeah, boy, intros. YouTube intros is be hard, boy. I tell ya, I spend a lot of time working on intro, and I really not satisfied with what I got. So I got like three or four different versions right now, and I still feel that I need to be better. Anyhow, speaking of better, today we talking about leveling up and continual learning and the importance of reading literature and getting different perspectives and worldviews from as many different people as possible, right? And the first book that I talked about today was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Um, that was a good one. And then let me see if what will be the next best one to follow up that with. I'm looking at my list here. Yes, another one that was very impactful for me. And I like to obviously I like to say why it has been impactful, especially by looking at what goes on in my life. In my last job, data governance was responsible for setting policies and making sure people follow rules. And then that sounds easy, right? Because anybody would believe, well, you just write the policy and you tell people that that's what they need to do and they're supposed to do it, right? But it takes a little bit more finesse than that. It takes some finessing, especially when you have situations when you're been working in environments where people have been doing things a particular way for a very long time. Change is always hard. Change is always difficult. And one of the books that really helped me in that role was Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. This was a good book for two reasons. It was a good book for two reasons because it it actually Chris Voss was a former FBI negotiator. I don't know. You can find him on YouTube. Um, you know, always surround yourself with smarter people than you, right? So you may not have access to these people personally, but you could spend time with them on YouTube. You could spend time with them in their literature, and you can learn from them. No excuses, right? We hold accountability, right? I feel my mic a little bit too far. Accountability. Anyhow, the reason that this book was good for me personally was one, how it was told. It was a really good story, and he gave you direct insights into high states FBI negotiating tactics, wins and failures. Crazy stories in there. So it was interesting and exciting from that regard, and then from the regard of the benefit and the value that it brought. Negotiation is probably one of the most important skills you would ever learn in your life. And it goes back to influencing the first book, Win Friends and Influence People. Being able to negotiate is such an invaluable tool to have in your skill set. Because when you think about it, everything that we do today is some form of negotiation. Even when it comes on YouTube, you are on YouTube creating content and you're trying to negotiate with total strangers as to why they should watch your content, which is why intros are so important. Intros are that 30 seconds where you get to have a brief conversation with a person if they click on your video, and you get to negotiate with, hey, here's why you should listen to my video. Negotiation skills, right? And when you're thinking about why a lot of people fail on YouTube, is I personally believe a lot of people fail on YouTube is because they believe that YouTube is luck. They believe that success is luck driven, but it's not. because there's so many successful people in the world. You're gonna try to convince me that all these people in the world are successful because they've been lucky? All these people been lucky. When I associate luck with something like winning the lottery, not that many people does win the lottery, but so many people are successful. And if you listen to the things that successful people say, and if you watch the things that successful people do, you realize that you see a pattern, to the point where, I spent so much time studying YouTube and what goes on into creating a good YouTube video. I realized that I've learned that there's an underground movement of people, and they call it underground because although there are so many successful people, there really is a very large amount of people who are not successful, who believe that they're entitled to living life a specific way. So I refer to successful people as underground. I don't know if that make any sense, because there's an underground movement of people who share the same ideas, practice the same habits, live the same lifestyle, read the same books, and we talking about books today. I didn't want to stress the importance of that. These people reading the same books, and they living in the same space as other successful people in their own little underground movement, because the reality situation is that these people know if they do these specific things in this specific order, they will achieve success. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be overnight. Some people go 10 years. Some people could do it in a year. Some people learn faster than others. Some people might take 5. Some people might take 15. Some people might take 20. But follow the breadcrumbs. Listen to the people who have done it before. You hear people say, oh, never listen to someone who hasn't done the thing that you've done, right? I guess people could argue, well, why listen to Andre about YouTube, because he not a big YouTuber. But I listening to and following the advice of big YouTubers, and I filtering down that advice and giving it to you guys for free, right? Like, comment, and subscribe. Help me grow. Help me hit 1,000 subscribers. That way I can start getting monetized for this thing, and I don't gotta get a new job, and I will have financial freedom. Anyhow, negotiation skills. How are you communicating with other people? How are you leveraging the power of no? How are you leveraging the power of yes? Right? How are you pulling people into your way of thinking without alienating their way of thinking? Back to my job. I have to design a policy. I have to write a policy and say, well, hey, you need to review your data every quarter. And if anything changed, you need to update the ownership. You need to update the delegates. Right? You need to update the security protocols. You just can't run around telling people what to do because you think that you have power or you're in authority over them. That is not what success looks like. In the grand scheme of things, success looks like people working together for a common goal, which means you have to share ideas, which means there will be differences of opinion, which means there will be pushback, which means there will be what? Negotiation. There will be a give to get. And bringing everything that I do back to the main point at hand is which is YouTube. A lot of people fail on YouTube because they believe that, okay, I'm going to create a video and I think that this video is great. Personally, I created this video, I think it's great and it's all wonderful and it's all well and good. You should watch it. You should take the time out of spending time with your daughter, spending time with your wife, spending time with your sick mom, or working to provide for your family. You should stop doing all those things and watch my video because I believe that my video is amazing. Can you imagine? And this is with no disrespect to nobody, right? Because people are free to take their own choice. This is America. It's freedom. Freedom of speech. people can do all that. Like, that's where I draw the line between art and creative genius. Because creative genius is leveraging the tools and the skills that you have to get the outcome that you desire. And the outcome that you desire is not owed to you. You're not entitled to it. I'm not entitled for anyone watching my videos today. I see I got 3 views. I only got one concurrent viewer. And that one concurrent viewer is probably me just listening to the monitoring to make sure everything coming through okay. 3 people hop on. But, you know, all I can do is put the content out there and put it out there in a way that adds value to other people. And that takes practice and that takes work. It takes commitment. It takes dedication. It takes what? Negotiation tactics. So that being said, that's a 5-10 minutes. Let me lock in another 50 and then we can get some lunch, right? Whoopsie. Start another 50-minute timer. Yeah. Yeah, a good session. I think I finally land on a good intro. We took the five or six different iterations of the intro, and you know it may seem excessive, but the truth is YouTube is hard, and in that first 30 seconds, being able to dial in why a person should watch your video, I think is really important. So I spend a lot of time. I actually spend more time on an intro than I do on creating the body of the work. Because if you could get people past the first 30 seconds, more than likely you could get them to continue to watch. Not that you don't put effort into those other points in the video, but I think you're picking up what you're putting down. So again, we talking about books, so I can just leave it on this one. Um, and the final book that I'm gonna talk about today is going to be Atomic Habits, and that's a book by James Clear. Shout out to my man Kevin. Kevin and Sue actually told me about that book. It was a book he was reading. Where is it? Atomic Habits by James Clear. I got it in this list here somewhere, but I think that's the correct information. I just wanted to double check to make sure that I'm giving you the correct information, the correct name person. Because again, I just read so much books, or I should say, listen to so much books. Can we do a search? Quick search here. Atomic. Pretty sure it's James Clear. Yep, Atomic Habits. An easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones by James Clear. Atomic Habits. Obviously, we touch on influence and we touch on negotiation. Why touching on Atomic Habits before I roll out is because, back to the original point I made when I started the video, reading and learning is nothing if you don't apply what you learn to your everyday life. Which is why Atomic Habits is a good book to end on, whereas that gives you systems to put in place to make minor little changes to your day-to-day structure so that you build habits that compound and compound and compound to the point where everything is automatic. And if you really want to change your life, you can't expect to change your life in a big way all at once. And even we looking at building a house, the house is built in parts, right? We got brick by brick, foundations, the lady foundation, put up the beams, you put on the structure, then you put on the roof, blah blah blah. Everything's a process, step by step by step by step. And that's what Atomic Habits is all about. Small, tiny steps that compound into a big result. And that is success. It leads to success. And I would tell you, as a man, I used to be a DJ, love music, listen to a lot of music. Got Apple Music on my phone, listening to music every day. And I made one small, tiny change to my routine that really changed me as a person and really helped me improve overall. And that is, I wouldn't say that I stopped listening to music because I still love music and I still like the vibes. Obviously, I got some nice vibes playing in my background as I work in here with you guys today. But the reality situation is I stopped listening to music on my commute to work. So my commute to work was 30 minutes there and 30 minutes home. So that's an hour. And instead of listening to music every morning and every evening, I would listen to audiobooks on Audible. Check out the link in the description. Get a free Audible subscription and one free audiobook, right? But I swapped that out. And, not that there isn't healthy and wholesome music, but all the music that we listen to isn't healthy and wholesome, right? Some of it is just party vibes. And they can listen to that music on a Sunday when they cooking or maybe my wife barbecuing or something. Listen to some music in a relaxed state. But on my commute, I listen to audiobooks every day, which means I know intaking way more information that I never would have been intaking, and then I could use that information to leverage it to make myself better and become a more successful individual. Now, is it fun? Probably not. Music is more fun, but again, atomic habits, small changes and tweaks that you make to your lifestyle that overall produces a better outcome. And this is not to say that music doesn't have its place. The dog barking, all saying my vibe. And this is not to say that music doesn't have its place, right? Because there's a time and a place for everything. But as you cut out some activities where you can replace it with better activities, you get better outcomes, right? And that being said, I'm not gonna take up too much more time. I gotta insert a new atomic habit because I've been trying to do a 30-minute walk. Now that I am not going into campus anymore, not working anymore, I don't get to go on my usual lunchtime walks around campus. So I had to swap that in into make sure I put in a 30-minute walk each day. So now I get shut down here and go ahead up a 30-minute walk, come back, eat some lunch, and then the afternoon's time, see if I could tweak my intro to make it the best possible intro as possible. Um, Probably might work on this intro today, tonight, maybe tomorrow. Then when I get it dialed in, start working on the script. Have the script ready by next week, and then next week we're gonna be recording a new video. Stay tuned. Bless up all the time. Remember, gratitude is the attitude. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a blessed day. Peace.